Why do you think that's so alluring for everyone? Why is it always the gateway drug to the rest of spirituality?
Well, I think especially for Westerners, it's because we're empty. At this level, we're so thirsty. There's a part of us that is not fed, that has been shifting to superficial things, and there's this aspect, this essence inside that is not fed. And as soon, because it's not normal that so many people practice yoga and QiGong, and it's like, how come? It's like, come on, But very rapidly, when I discovered meditation and all this, I said, oh, this is the way.
Drug.
This is the way. Does God exist or not? I never questioned myself about that. I always lived with a part with the invisible. I realized that the things I've done never really made me feel better. They made me feel more, and through feeling more, I got used to feel more things and feel more comfortable with all the things I feel, and that feels better.
I love that.
What a loop, huh?
Welcome to the Enlightened DXP podcast. I am very, very excited today because I have Daniel Lee Ox with us, and we're going to get talking about, I think, everything like we usually do on these podcasts. We'll touch on his latest venture over the last almost decade, I imagine, which is ZenCleanz. Something that I came across just in the last year, using fermented enzymes as a cleansing protocol. But he also happens to be a QiGong Master and an ordained Zen Buddhist monk. So we have a lot of things to cover today, Daniel.
Yeah.
Well, and I also
speed track. Yeah.
I also understand that you're a fellow Canadian from one of my favorite cities, Montreal.
Oui.
Oui. And so maybe we can start with who you were, now that you can have 20/20 hindsight, of course, who you were as a little boy that made you walk down this path of traditional Chinese medicine, this desire to get into Zen Buddhism. Who were you as a child, and what really propelled you into this world that you now live in?
Honestly, I was a pretty ordinary boy, I think, I was pretty energetic, like lots of very physical, and I just grew up normally, loved sport. And what led me there, I say that it's some kind of divine manipulation. It was not planned. Nobody could have seen this coming, definitely. But I think later, it came all the explanation, as a kid I was not thinking much about that.
And what were the sports that you were drawn to as a kid? You were just telling me a little bit about long-distance swimming.
Yeah, that's been the one I pushed. But, as a Canadian, I played hockey. I was doing everything. I liked everything. I was really physical boy, very, very active. It's a little bit annoying for the teachers and, overwhelming maybe for the parents as well. But yeah, overall, I was fine, pretty normal.
It's funny that you say that, pretty normal. Do you think your life now is not normal?
I mean, definitely, it took a direction that is definitely not mainstream.
It's not mainstream.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
and it happened pretty young. Yeah, actually, I was the last one going to church in my family. It's like I think it's an important. Why I mentioned that, because I think it's important in my trajectory, because I remember, like as a kid growing up in the 60s in Canada, it was like the tale of the Christianity, It was like the end. It was just before the decline of Christianity in Canada. I remember as a kid, we were going. We could see every family on Sunday was going and walking towards the church, and the churches were full. And
this was
and
really
we were
the last generation, right? Because I remember I had a Quebecois boyfriend when I was studying at University in Montreal, and I had never met so many almost like passionate atheists. And they sort of explained to me that because Christianity, particularly in French Canada, had taken hold in a way that,
as a rebellion, right?
There was
Somehow.
a rebellion in a way that someone who grew up in Anglo Canada, I didn't quite understand. Christianity was always sort of like something to the side, and if you wanted to do it, you did it. But there was no pressure. But when I heard all of the Quebecois speak about it, what it was like for their parents or their grandparents, it seemed like there was this real, backlash and.
I think
against
so.
it.
I think that it's been abusive in the past. But where I'm heading with that is that the stories were told from a simple family is like. It's pretty boring. It's in terms of spirituality. It doesn't fly high, as we say. It's pretty like there's this old bearded one, on top there, and he's got a hammer, and you better be a good boy because you're in trouble. That's pretty it, and you get some visuals with that. And I remember being I don't know if I was 10 yet, and. Because I was told by my parent, if there was anything, you ask Jesus and he will help you, So I was around 9 and I was pretty depressed. I don't know what happened with me then. And I asked Jesus and he answered me. So for me, it was like just normal, happens to everyone, And I lived from there for me. And the answer from Jesus was a pretty cool guy, in the way it happened.
Okay.
He's like, don't worry, it was like everything will be fine, and and I left that moment, and of course, as a kid, you think that everyone is experiencing that, so I never talked about it.
Right.
But I lived with that all the time, all my life, So for me to want does God exist or not? I never questioned myself about that. I always lived with a part with the invisible. I always questioned, closed my eyes, look inside, followed intuition, listened to the voice inside. It was like part of it. And at the end, I was actually the last of the family. I was going to the church. Actually, my parents were kind of suspicious, because I was 12 years old. They were not going to church, and I was going, And I had my own personal relationship. And for me, it was not religious. It was spiritual. It was like, I didn't know the meaning of spiritual at all at that time, but now I can understand that this channel was open, and possible to close because it was an experience. It was kinesthetic. It was like, cannot tell me now. It's like, no, I tell you, it happened, And it was, so everything else, and there was no, I was not belonging to a religion, never. It never happened to me to think about this, that I was Christian or whatever. I just had a personal relationship with Jesus. It's just like, just it's as simple as that, And I kept going like this, and then later I arrived and I moved out of and I take an apartment and I go and stay with friends downtown, and I shop at the Salvation Army for clothes, and I live with artists, and yeah, we get disguised there. We get costume at the end. I get a book, a yoga book that I found for 10 cents. At the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
It was those thing, and then I just picked the book, and
Or the book picked you.
There's something. The book was looking at me.
Yeah.
It jumped on me, and I picked it, and I started reading it, and then I remember I did my first long hitchhiking trip, and I was carrying it. It caught the rain and all this, and that was a very precious thing. I was discovering a dimension. It was like, it was something that was empowering. It was first time that I was not like a sinner or whatever. I was God. There was this potential. There was this cosmology, and we were eternal. It was, wow. That was for 10 cents,
Yeah.
That was a good deal, So,
I love that. There's so many people that sit across from me, and it does seem like yoga, or this Eastern way of portraying, of course, that we are all fractals of the universe or fractals of God itself, is the thing that makes them curious or open up even more to it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's so alluring for everyone? Why is it always the gateway drug to the rest of spirituality?
Well, I think especially for Westerners, it's because we're empty. At this level, we're so thirsty. There's a part of us that is not fed, that has been shifting to superficial things, and there's this aspect, this essence inside that is not fed. And as soon, because it's not normal that so many people practice yoga and QiGong, and it's like, how come? It's like, come on, this is not natural. I mean, this is fine if you discover that on a trip, or and you come across, and this is fine. But there's so many Westerners that get to connect with those Asian philosophy or elsewhere, But I remember this became like a passion, the most important thing in my life. It was the most important thing in my life. It was like, oh my God, and I was never dogmatic about it. I was never, because I was always been a little bit cheeky, and I was like maybe a little bit protective of my sovereignty, and maybe it's connected to my astrology, or I don't know. But I'm not a follower so much.
Yeah.
I'm not very much.
I wouldn't have pegged you as one.
Yeah. I'm not so much a follower. But at the same time, I will try all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I'm very open. I'm very curious in all this. But if you try to have power over me, I will not buy. And that's why I became friend with Jesus, because he never intended to have power over me. He was empowering me. And the same thing happened, with the other tradition, Asian tradition that I connected with. It was never for spiritual goals. I didn't need any of that. I didn't feel I needed it. I grew up, but for me, when I signed up as in a Zen dojo, because I had a back problem, and I look at these bald guys in the black dress, sitting straight like this in front of the wall. I said, this must be good for my back, And then I knock the door after they finish, and I say, hey, can I join you? And I didn't tell them because it was my back. But they say, yeah, come over and we'll teach you how to behave in the dojo. And I was there for 7 years, the most regular practitioner until I decided to ask to be ordained, you know. And the funny thing, as soon as I've been ordained, I almost never been back there.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was not like, oh my God, I'm caught by anything. It was just happened like this. My journey. It was like a statement, almost like for me. I realized that practicing without me saying a word was changing the world around me. Do you know what I mean? It was like, so for me to be ordained, it was not like, oh, you know, I don't want girlfriends. It was not about that. I was such a bad monk, by the way. But it was a statement, like it was like a commitment, another stage of no way back.
Did it feel like a closure of something? Like, oh, I've accomplished something to some degree, and now it's time for me to find something else to feed me or nourish me, or for me to learn in a different way?
I've never been good with closure. You know, like to conclude or I'm not good at it. I never close anything yet, you know. So it's more like it's a journey. Yeah, it's moving forward. It was just a stepping stone in my humble life, you know. It's just this, and then after that, the best description, if you want to understand me, is more chasing a butterfly than an intellectual journey. Okay, is more about following my bliss or my excitement, or what do I feel like, what do I you know, it's more like this, honestly. Is and at the same time, I'm interested. As I say, I'm a tripper, because for me, the drugs and all this went out of my life very quickly. I loved it. I would not change a minute of this, but very rapidly when I discovered meditation and all this, I said, oh, this is the way.
Drug.
This is the way. This is something that I will, you know, take off, and without the day after, you know, without hangover, without like it will, like there's a future there. That was my intuition, you know. Because I like to feel.
Yeah.
It's intimate, you know. This.
I'm very similar. Like for me, it's very physical, very energetic, and very emotional when I was younger. And I would say I still am, but I've learned over time to, and I think maybe things have shifted as well. But for me, I wasn't super aware. As I think back, because I'm half Japanese, I did have these linkages to just knowing like that I could speak to my ancestors at any time, or I had some of these seeds of ideas that I could speak to source. But I also had a very Western upbringing in Canada with a scientist father. His religion was the scientific method. And so there was a little bit of you can explore it as a curiosity, but, you know, there was a sort of an idea of like spirituality or religion is for suckers in my household. And it was I also found yoga in Montreal. And for me, it was purely the moment that I came across it, it was the only thing that could turn off my mind for 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And the first time I experienced it, I felt high. And it was this physical rush of like, wow, is that what it feels like to just breathe and focus for an entire 90 minutes without a single thought? And then as the years have stacked on, you know, for example, I'd never got yin yoga until maybe 10 years ago when I realized that I love yin yoga. There's something more spiritual to it if you can really hold a pose and breathe into it for 3-4 minutes. But at the beginning, I was an athlete. So yoga was a training modality for me, something to stretch my muscles. It was very physical, my reasons for doing it. But I'm curious for you, did there come a time where, you said you kind of had these spiritual inklings and already connections to your source or God from a young age, and then you were pursuing all of these things because they felt good. And I think the chasing of a butterfly, that's a beautiful tantric way of living life, is like following your intuition or following whatever you're attracted to, and then knowing that maybe even the universe is guiding your path. But did there come a time where you started to realize that things that you were doing was also deepening your spiritual practice? Or what's your philosophy on that now in terms of spirituality and your connection to God and all of the things that you're doing? Do you see a connection, or are you compartmentalizing it?
I look at some people and they tell me the story, and it makes me jealous. It's like I never had like anything extraordinary that happened, like
a
seeing the color
Kundalini
purple.
awakening
It's
or
like all this, But over time, I realized that maybe with less neurosis, less being less self-conscious, becoming more present to the environment, and I think that the practice did cleanse mentally, emotionally, physically. I became like a better channel, like I do have psychic abilities, but it's nothing extraordinary, it's nothing extraordinary. I just know. It's not necessarily always fun, to know what people think about you. It's not always cool. And to feel everything, to feel more, it's like I realized that the things I've done never really made me feel better. They made me feel more. And through feeling more, I got used to feel more things and feel more comfortable with all the things I feel, and that feels better.
I love that.
What a loop, huh? What a loop.
That's beautiful. So your spiritual practice is, whether it's from QiGong or anything else, it almost, as you were talking, I was envisioning you as a spiritual warrior, sort of building capacity to feel more. Yes. So that we don't have to live, that's what Tantra is, right? So we don't have to live numb, so that we're actually feeling everything that exists and saying, is there more?
Yeah, and being able to handle it,
Yes.
It's like there are things that I was experiencing in my 20s that were throwing me off, that right now doesn't affect me. But it's still, it's still like, there's rain and there's storms and there's, wind and earthquakes and all this. This is life, and I understood pretty early that this will not change. This will not change, and it was more about what I noticed, because I studied with many masters, and whatever was happening was all right. It was nothing like, there was nothing like, they were just stable. They were just able to be happy, whatever the situation that was happening, and staying cool. And so this is for me, that's as far as it got, I think, in my spiritual journey. I never really saw the color purple.
I love that. And tell me how QiGong found you.
Yeah, QiGong found me when I started practicing, Chinese medicine, and I've always been like very passionate, and I was giving a lot of energy to the clients, and there's a lot of leaks in my energy, even if I was like energetic person. And I started to feel depleted and feeling that like sometimes I was like hoping there would be like cancellation on my schedule and things like that. And I say, Danielle, if you want to be a professional, you need to be able to handle that. And and especially I needed the money, I didn't want them to cancel, so I was in a conflict, and I remember that during my training, even if there was not much of it, there was always in the text, there was some teachers shared some exercises like this, and so I had a taste, and kind of at some point I just looked and read, and I read a book. Is that something like that from Mantak Chia, and I realized that he was in New York. So from Montreal to New York, that was something that affordable, and I just went, and it was in the Catskills in upstate New York, and so I went there for 3 weeks, and again, not the journey. Started there, never stopped, practicing like mad, and that was
the first time you did it. Were you like, "This is something for me"?
Oh man, yeah. Oh yeah. It's like these things for me was like, wow, this is something. If I can keep that vibe going, wow, this is something, because it's like, honestly, there was lots of neurosis, a lot of not comfortable with myself, not like a little bit, not so much self-confident, that there was so many things, and nervous with my fire, because I'm a fiery person. 5 planets in Leo is like, it's not low profile, cannot. But this is, it
needs to be
channeled.
Yeah,
channeled. It needs to be grounded. You need to, and I had no idea of what could that mean.
Interesting.
I never heard about it. It's like never heard, but just going there, spending 3 weeks there, grounding, breathing, quieting my mind, smiling to myself, all this, kind of, I feel good. I want to stay there, And then you go back to your life, and it's not like magic pill, It's like you got to practice, and then there's the life shift,
Slowly.
because I graduated from film school. Okay, so for me, I was an artist working on films, before the Chinese medicine. So it was nothing to be cool. That was a cool lifestyle,
Right.
like it was working film, that was cool. But in terms of lifestyle, in terms of parties, in terms of not sleeping and eating badly and all this, like for the nervous system, if a guy like me,
Yeah.
there was nothing to help, huh? Nothing to help. Some people I was working with, they were cool. I was not cool. My temper was fiery and very,
Volatile.
unstable. Yeah, very unbearable. It was annoying. Annoying. So when I touch that, I say it's possible. I can really get into that zone. And it's possible, and it's based on practices. It's not like praying and hopefully it will come. No, you do this, you do this, you do this. It's very pragmatic, and this I like that. I like that. So now I got into it, and there was this shift from I'm still in the 20s, right? So I'm still with my friends and the party. I'm newly graduated in Chinese medicine. My friends say, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's like, and then and then gradually there's the meditation pillow starts to win over the party, and then I realized that I need to put myself into a situation where it will support that. So this is when I bought a land in the north of Montreal, an hour and a half north of Montreal. And there was no running water and nothing. That's all I could afford. I paid $20,000 for 5 acres next to a lake.
Okay.
But that saved my life. That saved my life. And I started to wake up. I went through cold turkey. You know, it's like just going through, and the friends are not there, and you know, there's no party, and oh shit, I forgot
Sounds
the
like
mayonnaise.
a spiritual
You know,
death.
it's far.
Sounds like a spiritual death, like the
Yeah.
hard way. You went and said,
That was the best thing I've done, and then you know, I had my meditation pillow. It was like 50 square meter. House, everything, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, everything, 50 square meter. It was very, very small. And I made a corner for the meditation pillow. So sometimes I had the option, that was the joint or the meditation pillow. And if there was the joint, I could not meditate because my brain was going like this. So gradually having this and making the choice and feeling guilty doing the bad choice, feeling happy doing the good choice. You know, the battle, the inner battle that was happening at that moment was the transition. So very early, the meditation pillows start to win all the time, or most of the time, you know, and my practice really took off because it's like there was nothing else.
that was in your late 20s, mid 20s?
Yeah, actually I got at 30 years old, let's say,
Okay.
you know, 30 years old. It was like, waking up and nothing, and just the lake, beautiful, the birds, the nature, and going
Beautiful.
outside and doing some qigong and breathing deeply, or jumping in the lake and go swim. You know, there was something that it was in the right direction. I could feel, and yeah.
And how long did that sort of cocoon last for you?
It's not over.
So you took it
Yeah.
on, but you obviously left this parcel of land. What brought you
Yes,
out?
yes. I at some point I was, you know, like still I was a professional doing and having a good life. I'm talking about the beginning of my 40s, okay, because I was there like for 12 years, and a lot happened those 12 years. My practice, my school, I kept going and studied qigong, and it got, you know, to a point where I started teaching, opened my school, and but at some point again this thing just caught me. It's like, I'm bored. It's like you know, it's like I don't want to go again. I'm tired to do the clinique and teaching the same thing. I feel I'm 40 years old. I want to learn. I want to still learn. I don't know, you know, I described it like I lost the bubbles in my champagne. This, how I got it is like, because to teach and to be a healer, it requires your full presence. Is intimate. It needs to be it's a connection, you know, with the people.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like being there, it kills you. If you are there and you're fully there, it energizes you. It's a gift, you know, that comes to you. But when you lose that, it's deadly. You know, you cannot keep going. Cannot keep going. So it picked about the beginning of my 40s. Like, oh my God, you know, again, again, and then I didn't have money aside to leave, because I say, how long will it take to find my bubbles again? I don't know. And in my mind, I needed to have 5 years. That was the number that that came to my mind. You know, I need to be for 5 years. I don't need to work, and I will leave. I don't know where, but I will leave, and I will, for the quest for my bubbles, you know? So, yeah.
I love that comment about the bubbles. It reminds me of Ram Dass and his, have you heard Into the Fire? There's a eloquent sort of speech that he gives, and he basically talks about the fact that all of us have a burning fire inside of us. And for many of us, that fire turns to like just an ember that's barely glowing underneath all this ash. And every once in a while in life, we are required to dig it out and to blow on it and blow on it and blow on it and start feeding it with what nourishes it, in order for it to be a full-blown fire inside of our souls again.
Preserving the fire going.
Preserving the fire. And it's sort of his metaphor of what life is for us to tend to our own fires and make sure that they're healthy and glowing.
I think so. Definitely I can relate to that. And it's precious if we dare to ask ourselves this question, you know, like, what do I want? What do I feel like doing, you know? It's precious when you tune into that, you know, you're excited. You're like, you know, like a kid.
A new life.
Still, you're just connected to your sexual energy, I would say, you know, the childlike sexual energy is like, you ask a child, you know, what do you want to do? And they say, oh, my God, you know, I want ice cream. I want to sleep over to my friend. I want to go to the park. They give you a whole list, you know, like that. They're so
true.
Connected. And you ask the same thing to an adult, and they need to take a sabbatical to find out one thing maybe they would like to do, you know. There's
That's
a disconnection from
Our desire.
from the core, and because so we get mental, you know, or emotional also. We often do things fear-based, you know, security thing, or mental, you know, like, oh, I have and make sense, and you know, I am this, and
so I must
you know,
do this. Yeah.
yeah, you know. So, but it's disconnected from our genitals, you know, our fire, our
creation.
Creative power.
Yeah.
So
what did when you tuned in at that time in your life and you said, oh, okay, I need 5 years. What happened? Where did you go?
Well, already when I just found this expression, looking for my bubbles, that was my bubbles. So I got on a journey, a discovery tour, you know. So that for me, that was enough. That was enough because I tried to leave, tried to run away from this boredom. And it wasn't working. There was always something in the manifestation of the plan I had that was not working. I could not sell my land. I could not, you know, there was all kinds of things. And then I said, I want to get out of here. It's not comfortable. And, you know, it needs to happen now, you know. But... and then I say, wait a minute, you know, it doesn't work. There's something wrong into this. And I say, where am I going? You know, and then when I just put the words on, there was a big opening. And the house been sold like this, the clinic, everything started to very, very rapidly. Everything was set, and I had money in the bank, and I could leave. And then I was going to look for bubbles, and that was a cool thing for me, you know, to say that I was satisfied, to say, and I would tell people, you know, people would say, oh, what are you doing? There was no way I was going to tell them I was doing Chinese medicine, and no way I was going to tell them that I was a QiGong teacher. There was no way that I was going to frame my own self. I really wanted to open the doors to anything, you know, no matter no matter what it would be that
So
will light me up, I was open to it, you know.
So it sounds like you felt a little constrained in your own identities by that point, and you were ready to blow it wide open.
Yeah, I just didn't want to limit the option. Sometimes, you know, we look in 1 degree, you know, there, and there's 360 degrees that can happen, you know, all kinds of things. So I wanted to stay open as much as possible, you know. But of course, what I did before, it was still a passion, and actually, the bubbles came into a similar topic in a different form, and it just evolved. And
Because my understanding is that ultimately, a few years later, you did end up having a Qigong school in China.
yeah, well, I've been first. I went to China first. I went to China first, just. Because I needed to start somewhere, and I heard about this Kung Fu master in China, that he was also a healer, and so I went there, and just to see China. After all, you know, I've never been to China. I'm Chinese medicine and Qigong guy, you know, never been to China, so I got excited about going there, and then it was an old man. I didn't even know if he was there. It would be there because I heard about him like 20 years before from a schoolmate studying qigong. He just told me, but it was just an excuse, you know, to go somewhere. I had no idea where to go, so I went there, and this is where I got my Li Ox name, you know. Actually, it was not Li Ox, it was Li Niu, because, you know, like this master had 2 sons who were all twin sons. They were also a Kung Fu master, amazing Kung Fu master, played in films and all this. But they lived in the UK and in Australia, so they were speaking English. So I went there because I could understand something, right? And but then I was not the only foreigner there, but there was like 6 Daniels there. It's so original name, you know.
Right.
So there was Baby Dan, Bearded Dan, the Old Dan, you know. He went through the whole Dans to identify us, and for me, he ran out and he called me Linio, which means like power buffalo, you know. And it was like he said the Li means power in Chinese, and it was because of my temper, because my, you know, like hardworking also, yeah, and buffalo is so you can get the meaning of that, yeah. maybe it's definitely, oh yes, that's for sure. So I changed it for Li Ox when I went to Indonesia, so it's just easier for people, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I love
that's where
a good name with a good story.
Spectacular story, you know. Just funny story, I think.
Now, okay, before we go into ZenCleanz, because I definitely want to talk about this. I was struck earlier when you said, you know, I do have a lot of friends who are in this healing practitioner field, whether they're therapists or, you know, energy workers, etc. And a lot of them tell me that it can be energetically draining. And I've always felt, you know, I intuitively, I think I'm a good energy worker, but I don't think I make it for a good one if I were to be a professional one, because I'm too energetic. And so there's this barrier isn't really there. And I keep hearing from practitioners that, yeah, it's something that you build resilience to. There's something that, you know, moving energy through your body to make sure that you don't take on other people's things or energies or emotions. Is that what Qigong did for you? Did it sort of help you build that? Or how have you been able to build that strength? Because I can clearly tell you're very much an energetic. And the beautiful thing about that is that we conduct and feed off of each other. and it's a beautiful trait, but it can also be our Achilles heel. It can also drain us and exhaust us.
Yeah, and this is how I got it. I think that was the thing, you know. I was like having too much of myself invested in the process, you know, and I was giving from me. I want, you know, come on, heal, you know. And the qigong helped me to empty myself and connect with working with external forces, you know, grounding myself. So that means that I don't need to protect myself from anyone anymore. It's like if you're sad and I'm sitting with you and I feel the sadness, it's not like, oh my God, I should not feel this sadness. It's like it's going to affect my life. No, I take the sadness and I transform it, and I can transform because it is a power. It is a power. So it's energy transformation, energy cultivation. And so if I can take your sadness and grounding it, I will see your smile coming very soon, you know. And this is, and then I tune into, and I you know, I like, it's a kind of a tune into the Taurus, you know. The Taurus is like this. Try to not say no to anything, not to be afraid of anything. Just take as we are one. I take you in, and I just take you all in, because we do it together or we don't do it at all. You know, this is the deal. This is where we're at in this world, and is like, you are me, you know. So if we take it this way, there's no more like I have nothing to protect myself from you. You just need the technique. You just need to know how to do it. It's very physical. You know, I have a little anecdote about this. When I was little, there was only 2 prongs in the wall.
Like
when you plug the socket.
Yes, no grounding wire.
There was no grounding wires, and every time there was a storm, lightnings, or thing, the parents would sending the kids, say, go unplug the TV, go unplug the toaster. There was this kind of, and you know, and one day there was these guys, they just came and they played in the electric box, and we were following them in the house, and there was 3 prongs in the wall. And we didn't need to run anymore, So it's only when I studied qigong, and that I learned to Jianzhuang and how to align myself and let all my inner tensions pour down into the ground and let go, and practicing hours and hours of letting go and all this, you know, may seem like such a boring practice, but this is the most important practice, because after that, no matter someone comes in with a steel bar and say, I'm gonna kill you, if you have practiced this, you can take this and let it go into the ground and keep your cool and manage the best. It doesn't mean that you won't die, but at least you won't lose your cool, and you will do the best of the situation. Otherwise, if you're not grounded, you just end up like curled up in the corner, and you're done, you know. So, but this applies for self-healing as well, because the steel bar is inside, you know. It's like all the anger I accumulated, the sadness, the fear, and all this. When we release it, it's like we relive it, right? So it's like the person just come in the room like this, and then you have an opportunity to ground it and let it go. And this is what I understood was healing about. And so I started, as I understood it, I all my healing practices, that was it. That was it. It's like, even what do I do? What do I, you know, it's like, it was all about emptying my mind. It was not like a strategy anymore. It was like more like a channeling, and it was a grounding, and it was a love story, you know, nothing like too technical anymore.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. let's switch here to ZenCleanz. So our mutual friend Amir introduced me to ZenCleanz earlier this year. He's been raving about it for a while. He does it before any plant ceremony he goes off and does. He does it throughout the year. He's very much into biohacking. He's one of those guys that does even like blood transfusions and everything, right? So I trust that he's always got his pulse on the highest quality, the most interesting, somewhat spiritually connected sort of biohacking modalities, let's say. And I've been an intermittent faster for the last 4 or 5 years, quite religiously. And I love being a guinea pig. So I love, trying keto and all sorts of different things and just seeing how my body and my mind feels on different things. And I also love food. And so the idea of a prolonged water fast, let's say for more than 48 hours, was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that,
Unappealing.
Yeah. I would do sometimes cleanses or just drink broths or something for like a few days to give my digestive system a break. But I'd never really been able to do, let's say, a 7 or 8 day until this April. I came back from a holiday with friends in Switzerland and I was feeling quite off, actually. It was right after Easter. I was actually throwing up. I had diarrhea and it was lasting for days. And I just thought, there's something not right with my system. I think I need to fast and allow, after I think 48 hours, autophagy starts, or 24 hours, autophagy starts. So your own cells start breaking down and eating itself. And then after 48 hours, I think your body starts creating stem cells. And so as a biohacker, I'm like, I must try this, see if my body can heal itself. And Amir recommended ZenCleanz. And what's interesting about ZenCleanz is it seems you have these beautiful, I'm going to bring them out in a moment, but these beautiful formulations of enzymes that have been sort of fermented. So they're already digested in a sense. Tell me about the effectiveness of this. Tell me about why this is so important to use versus, let's say, a clean 7-day water fast, or are they used, together? What's the magic in these ZenCleanz fermented enzymes?
Yeah. First, water fasting has been what I've done the most in my life. That was my first one. The first book I read from Dr. Shelton. I did the 3 weeks water fast, the first, and I never stopped again. And that was I fasted over 800 days in my life and did 5 times 1 month, and nuts, something like that. Enough to be able to guide some people. And that's what I started to do. And in China, I opened a detox center because I never heard about detox in China. It's like it seemed that it was not part of the culture and all this. So I ran this, and
Is that true though? I would have thought in Chinese medicine, like detoxing or fasting, because it's found in so many spiritual, Hinduism, I would assume in Taoism, maybe I'm wrong, but that there was something around fasting.
They do, but it's reserved to the monks mostly. It's called
see.
bigu, and this is something that happens. That happens kind of naturally, It's like you get to a point where you can tap on cosmic energy and you don't need food anymore. It's something a little bit out there, like it's not the culture for the population normally, they're not so much. And then I didn't question so much. I saw that, you go to China, there's fermented food everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, everywhere. In every dish,
Yeah.
They have something, or there's a table with pao cai, they call the fermented vegetables of all kinds, and it's all there. Man, I thought, That's it, you know.
But it's in the
that's
West
what
now. It's huge. I mean, kombucha,
Yes.
kimchi.
Yes.
I mean, miso, of course, from the Japanese.
Yes.
Natto. All of these things are gaining in huge popularity
Yeah.
to feed our gut biomes, now known as our second brains, I guess.
Yes.
But for you, with these fermented enzymes, I mean, we have all of these old ways, esoteric wisdom, and it's in our food. But to then have it in these pouches, what is it that you're bringing to in these systems?
Yeah. Well, I bring the fine art of cleansing. You know, after I'm skipping a whole process that I've been going through, because in my center, some people stop at my center. They saw a detox center. They came in, talked with me, and I resisted a lot. It felt like they wanted me to sell something, and but actually they didn't want. They wanted me to work with them because they were seeing what I was doing, that I was knowledgeable, that I was blonde, blue-eyed, Chinese medicine doctor. You know, there was some marketing potential, and they wanted me to be somehow part of the training for their educators. So at some point they sent me plane tickets and hotel rooms, and I flew to Taiwan, and I went through an experience for a weekend, and that really changed my life enough to say, what just happened? You know, it's like, how can something so tasty, so appealing, so easy to go through, be so effective? Because in 24 hours, what I've tried on that day took out, stripped off more than anything that lasted for a month could ever done to me in the past, you know. And this is what's happening in 24 hours. So it brought me back to my books and tried to understand what was happening, because this place, the people I got in touch with were fermenting 152 plants for a period of 3 years. This is nuts. This is nuts, you know. But I understood why. What happened? What happens when you ferment something for so long, you go through different stages and through refinement of the whole plant. And you make the whole plant bioavailable to your blood, 100%. It's as if you were injecting the nutrients straight into your bloodstream. And if you understand what enzymes do, you know, they digest, okay? And digestion, the process of detox, is a digestive process. So the natural detox process of the body is a digestive process. So when you supply to the body extra enzymes, it goes through, following your bloodstream, and it goes through your filters, your liver, lymphatic system, kidneys, tissues, everywhere, and it nibbles. The little Pac-Man just starts like nibbling on everything that is there. It's active. It's power. Okay, so this is what makes it like so powerful, and at the same time, the fact that these enzymes are not extract like what we see most of the time on the shelf. You see enzyme, papaya enzyme, you know, pineapple enzyme, bromelain. These are extracts. It's not the whole plant. So by using the whole plant, all the nutrients and the healing compounds that the plant itself has is made also 100% bioavailable. So all the God-given plants are on steroids, and it's synergetic. So it's not like, okay, you're playing with the chemistry of anything. No, you just make sure like a brand new baby, he can digest very well and takes everything that you put into his body. So that means like if you're completely down and drained out and you have no more power and you're depleted, enzyme deficient, doesn't matter, because they will make it into your bloodstream. So that means like you can be completely down, completely out of order, and you start taking this, and the resilience will start coming back, you know. So because oftentimes in natural medicine we face that often. That means like someone come into your cabinet and say, I'm dying. You know, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, I'm dying, it's terrible, you know. And then you say, okay, you should do exercises, you should like stop eating this and go shop there. It's like, and the guy just say, I just told you I'm dying, huh? Don't put me on a program that's like, I can't move anymore, I'm tired, I'm mentally depleted, I'm self-destructive, you know. So now with the enzyme, you say, take this, don't need to change anything, you know. Just take this, and then the resilience come, and then you start like get into a positive momentum.
I had a similar experience, because when I started the 7-day rainbow protocol, which was started with the 1-day intestinal cleanse and then 7 days of fasting with enzymes, and then at the end it was a liver flush, which I was shocked to find so many beautiful crystals in my liver. But I found that by day 4 or 5, I was actually like, I wasn't hungry. And I was wondering, is that because of the enzymes? Is it sort of nourishing me on some level that I'm not, you know, required to, like it no longer, like I'm satiated somehow?
Yes. It does, actually. It's food, right? It's food, and
does it have a caloric?
Yes,
it does have.
It does.
So it's not a full fast then. When you're on it, you wouldn't be.
No.
Okay, you won't be going into autophagy, for example.
You do. You do. You get there. If you prolong that, you will get into autolysis. We get the symptom of the heartbeat increasing, the tongue becoming thicker. You know, you get there on the prolonged one. But actually is. The goal is, that's what's important, is what is happening is like how much toxins are coming out. What about the inflammation? What about the repair and all this? You know, if it's not about fasting just for fasting, it's fasting for healing, fasting to repair, fasting, you know, and with the enzymes, you can have all this. And actually, it's more democratic. It's like there's so many people that will never water fast, and they will never water fast long enough, because you need to water fast at least 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, to get into empty your tract and to get on autolysis and start like nibbling on for survival into your toxins. But the enzyme brings you there immediately.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel, we're just getting into the juicy stuff. We're going to have to...
More.
We'll have to do another session when you come back. I understand that I don't know if you're moving here, but at least part of your business is moving here, and you've become a new resident of Dubai.
Yes.
Welcome to our beautiful healing community. I think we're definitely ready for your...
You will be my introduction. You know, I know nothing about Dubai, and it was pretty magical that Amir just put me in touch with you. It's like, really? Like, I'm very happy I got in touch with you, and
me too.
Got some you know, a connection,
a little
with the land,
cord into the Dubai ecosystem. Well, we're grateful to have more and more people like you entering into the Dubai community, and I think we'll have to have another conversation to go even deeper and geek out a little bit into the science of all of this. But thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Thanks for having me. And it's so easy, very easy, very comfortable to open with you. So thank you.
Yeah, really beautiful to hear your story as well. And I have a feeling there's a lot of your fans who'd love to hear a little bit more about your story and how you got to where you are. So thank you for your time today. And we'll catch you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Hey, if you're curious to explore the ZenCleanz portfolio of products, I couldn't recommend them highly enough. I was personally introduced to them from a biohacking friend of mine after I got some food poisoning about a year ago from a Michelin-starred restaurant in Dubai, no less. And my gut was just off for a few months afterwards. It would get thrown off easily and I would have gastro issues when I'd mix up my food intakes on my travels. I consider myself to be a foodie and have generally had a stomach of steel, so this was really bizarre. It was also affecting my emotional body, and I just didn't feel myself. So I decided to try ZenCleanz's 7-day rainbow cleanse, which is a 1-day gastro flush followed by 7 days of fasting along with enzymes and concluding with a liver flush. It wouldn't be an understatement to say it sort of changed my life. I went from pretty ill, sick, and a bit depressed to being back on top of the world in 2 weeks. I also met a new love right after the flush. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I've turned a lot of friends onto it. And I've been slowly working through all of the cleanses this past year to keep my systems running clean. They aren't cheap, but you do pay for what you get. I know every bit helps, so you can use code EDXB15, EDXB15 to get 15% off on your next order. Good luck. Hey there. If you like this episode and you're getting some beautiful transmissions or are feeling inspired to support this podcast in any way, the best way to do that is to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever it is that you're plugging into the Enlightened DXB podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at EnlightenedDXB. If you want to reach out to any of the guests we have on the show, you can check out their profiles and their work at www.enlighteneddxb.com. And for those of you in Dubai looking for community, retreats, or additional resources, you can also sign up to our emailing list there. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, I wish you more joy, more ease, and a little sprinkle of grace.